Hi, everyone. John Michael Coppola here, and welcome to the Chicago Theater Makers Podcast, where we chat with the actors, directors, choreographers, designers, and producers shaping the Chicagoland area's one-of-a-kind theater scene. We're so excited that you're here with us today, but before we get started, I just want to remind you to please like, subscribe to, and share this podcast with your friends and colleagues who you think would appreciate the conversations we're having. We'd be so grateful to have your support in this way so that we can continue to bring these stories for years to come. Thanks again for being here, and now, curtain up on today's episode. The Marriott Theatre was founded in 1975, and today, the Acclaimed Theatre sells more than 400,000 tickets annually. In all, it has presented more than 180 productions to an estimated 11 million people. Earning praise from critics and audiences alike, they have received a record 599 Joseph Jefferson Award nominations. In addition to the presentation of classic American musical theater, Marriott Theatre has become a driving force in the development of original and reimagined musicals, including world premieres of Phantom of the Country Palace, Peggy Sue Got Married, Once Upon a Time in New Jersey, For the Boys, Hero, and October Sky. Their popular Theater for Young Audiences programming has presented more than 75 productions of original works as well as classic fairy tales. Through these special one-hour productions, over 2 million children have experienced the joy and magic that is live theater. Along with their recently launched concert series, the Marriott is always reinventing itself to meet the ever-changing landscape in live entertainment programming. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Marriott Theatre's Executive Director, Peter Blair, and Artistic Director, Peter Marston Sullivan. And now let's go to the top of the show. Mr. Blair, Mr. Sullivan, thank you so much for joining me. How are you both?
Doing great.
Excellent, thank you.
Excellent. As is our custom here, since this is a Chicago Theater Makers podcast, I like to always ask our guests a little bit about where you grew up, a little bit about your background, a little bit about your training, and finally, and most importantly, your first theater experience. So why don't we go alphabetically? Peter Blair, you can start.
Sure, that's a lot of questions. I'm from San Diego, California, and I went to college at Trinity College in Connecticut, and I studied music. You asked about my training. I would say I'm thoroughly untrained for what I do, but I think all of my sort of random theater jobs and experiences over the years kind of brought me to have the right set of skills for this job. So I'm not sure it's about training so much as experience for most of these kind of jobs.
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't know my first theater experience. My parents were theater goers, so I remember being taken, I don't want to say dragged, maybe in the early days it was dragged to shows with them, but luckily San Diego has great theater, so I grew up going to Old Globe and La Jolla Playhouse, and every Broadway tour that came through we would go see, and my mom always loved all the Broadway musicals, so I think that's sort of where I got it. She has a great voice. She didn't pass that on to me, but I was always from like middle school, I think in 6th grade, I played a little kid in Evita, and I just loved that sort of backstage experience. And I thought all the high schoolers that were playing the leads I thought they were professionals. I thought they were going straight to Broadway, every single one of them. And I just loved being backstage and the smells and the lights and all this stuff. And so from then on, I just loved being around it. But I started performing in high school. Honestly, for a high school and college male, it's not too hard to get cast in the musicals. Mm-hmm. So despite my lack of natural talent, I just performed a ton, and I just loved it. I loved being around it. Eventually, I figured out that I shouldn't be a performer. This was not what the world intended. So I had started stage managing in college, and then when I moved to Chicago, not really intending to follow a theater path. Like I said, I studied music. I didn't know if I was going to be like a middle school choir conductor or something like that. But I'd stage managed in college, and that's what I started doing, a bunch of storefront stuff. And luckily, this town is great for that. It's just sort of keep moving up, keep meeting people.
Yeah.
And eventually I landed here in 2005 as a production assistant, and they couldn't get rid of me.
That's fantastic. Now, you say you majored in music. A lot of people major in music voice or music an instrument. Do you play an instrument?
I don't play an instrument. I played enough piano to get through classes. Um, if I had to claim something, I would say I was a singer just because I did all the musicals and I would sing in like the choirs and the chapel and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But it was such a small music department that it was mostly theory and history that I focused on because I was not a performer.
Gotcha. Yeah. I love too how you mentioned you liked the sights and the sounds, because being in the theater is really such a five senses experience. You get all of that, even from the backstage perspective. Although it never dawned on me till this moment till you mentioned it, that you walk to a theater and there's like, there's that smell that I'm so used to. It's pretty remarkable, actually. Peter Sullivan.
Enough of him. Um, okay, well, I grew up in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and not a lot of theater there. But I'll start with probably my first theater story, which is a community theater production of Gypsy that I was in as one of the kids at the beginning with Uncle Jocko. I played the violin for about 13 years into college, so I was the kid who auditioned by playing the violin, and I was very impressed with myself, very proud. I would say 8 to 10 years later, I saw a VHS of that performance, and learned that actually everyone was upstage of me, making fun of my playing. So that's my great first experience, and I'm able to look back on it now and go, wow, okay, that was brutal. All right. Um, so then Peter went to Trinity. I also went to Trinity University, which is another strange coincidence that we share. And I was going to actually major in music. I played the violin. I was going to be in the orchestra, and that was my thing until they actually got rid of the conductor. And so I staged a protest and quit the orchestra and decided to major in psychology, which was great until I learned you have to take stats too. So I said, you know what, I can't do that. What else deals with psychology? The theater. Oh, and look, there are very few college guys doing theater. So you know what, I'm going to get cast pretty regularly. And I did. So I did that for a while. I taught high school for a couple of years. And then I got my MFA at Illinois State in directing. I got a internship at Bailiwick, the old Bailiwick. And from there, Larry Baker plucked me away to come to the Marriott and also be a production assistant in 2004, I believe, or 2003. And I have been here ever since. And so yeah, so that's my story.
That's fantastic. Now it's obvious how you made it to Chicago because you went to school here. But Peter Blair, how did you find your way to Chicago? Because you said you were on the East Coast for a while.
I was in Connecticut for college.
Right.
I stayed for a year after I graduated and was the assistant technical director at our arts center at college, because I didn't quite know what I was going to do. And then for no better reason than a good friend in college was moving to Chicago, and I said, that sounds fun. Again, not really intending to make a theater career. I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Sure.
But I got here, and my only sort of marketable skills were stage managing or building sets. So I did both of those. In those, in storefront, building sets actually pays better than stage managing. And I worked at J. Crew for 7 years, dressing mannequins and doing like window displays and stuff.
Wow.
But yeah, I honestly, I'd spent like maybe 3 hours in Chicago before I decided just to move here with, nothing better to do. So, yeah, it's just, I didn't know there was a theater community here. I didn't intend to join it. It's a lot of just sort of happenstance. And again, it's like who you meet, right?
Yeah.
Peter mentioned the Bailiwick. That was my first job in theater was at Bailiwick also. And so that's where he and I first met in, I want to say 2002-ish.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. But yeah, and then Larry Baker's a very well-known stage manager in town, also, who I had met at the Bailiwick, brought me up here as production assistant. So we've sort of had these weird parallel and intersecting lives and careers, and he now goes by my name. So it's
Before you hopped on, I asked Peter Sullivan, I said, so how should I refer to each of you in this podcast without getting confusing? He said, no, it's okay. Whatever you want. Just don't call me. I won't even say it live on air. But it's pretty remarkable.
Is that what I call you?
No, hopefully not. But it's remarkable how much of a parallel career path you both have had. So now this is the burning question for me, because I moved here to Chicago and discovered there was the Marriott Theater. Actually, I knew about the Marriott because my wife had worked there years earlier, but the Marriott Theater, when you hear the word Marriott, you think of the hotel. So when I discovered there was a Marriott Theater, I've always wanted to know, how did the Marriott Theater become the Marriott Theater? Was it like the hotel said to a theatrical entrepreneur, hey, we have this space, we want you to do something with it? Or was it vice versa? Someone came to the Marriott and said, we've got a great idea if you've got the space.
I will tell you the story as I think I remember it, just from my predecessor sort of probably filling me in when I first started working here.
Sure.
And that is that, well, obviously Lincolnshire 50 years ago was very different. There's a photo around here of like an aerial view of when the resort was built, and there's nothing. I mean, there were like literally like fields of corn across Milwaukee Avenue. There was a tiny like little regional airport across the street. I mean nothing. So I don't know who originally said, hey, that's a good place for a resort. I can't answer that. But the land, as I understand it, was owned by the DeSantis family, who run the Drury Lane. At that time, I don't know how many Drury Lanes there were, but and so we were sort of born under that umbrella.
I see.
I think legally we were called like Drury Lane North for 30 years or something like that. And I don't quite understand exactly why the theater's here. My understanding is potentially that the family in the lease said, yeah, you Marriott can build a resort up there as long as you put a theater in it. I don't know if they had the intention of running it or just want more theaters, because that's a good idea.
Right.
So that's why there's a theater here. And as I understand it, Marriott Corporation liked the idea and said, oh, yeah, we're going to build all these resorts around the world, and why wouldn't they have a musical theater? That's a great idea. Sounds easy. They built ours and never built another one. So that's why we're called Marriott Theater. We are inside a Marriott resort.
Right.
We are not, per se funded or managed or overseen by Marriott Corporation.
Right.
But this is a Marriott resort. So that's how we got our name. And we're the only one.
Wow. Having played that space, it's a theater. It's not like it was built out of something else, like a ballroom or a conference room. So that's what was so fascinating to me. Like, this is literally what this was built for. I mean, you hear other stories about repurposed venues that become theaters, but I love that story. Now I can check that off as the big curious question I've had for all these years.
Yeah, I mean, especially at that time, this being as remote as it is, I mean, families would come here for the weekend, and you would play golf, you'd play tennis, you'd see a play, you'd swim,
Yeah.
But now everything's built up, everything has been built around us now. So,
So please inform our listeners, for those who might not be familiar, Peter Blair, you're the executive producer, and Peter Sullivan, you're the artistic director. So what do those roles define? Like, what are the definitive, like, day-to-day and season to season responsibilities of each of those roles?
The short version is we just fight all the time. That's really all it is.
Oh, okay. So you're married.
Yeah.
how
No,
dare you, Peter?
Don't talk to me like that.
Don't air our dirty laundry on this podcast.
That's right. No, but seriously, just in a small encapsulation, like, what's the difference between?
I'll let him answer because I want to hear what he thinks I do.
Oh boy.
Wow.
I think the simplified version for me is that I am sort of in charge of everything that you artistically see on the stage. The design choices, the casting choices, the way the shows are performed, all the design elements, lights, costumes, all that stuff kind of falls under my purview, and my task is to make each show as good as it possibly can be, with the budget and circumstances and life and economy and all those things. And my feeling is that Mr. Blair, the executive producer, is the one who essentially holds the money and makes the big decisions when he needs to in terms of what's more important than other things. I think he takes my advice, I would say at least 20% of the time,
Yeah.
maybe 22. But it kind of manages um, the overarching budget and how the theater is actually run. So I think that's my shortened version.
Yeah.
Blair deals a lot more with patrons, the hotel, the resort,
Yep.
management, and of course, creating the budget and wages and all that kind of stuff. And then also has a hand in obviously what you see on stage.
Yeah.
In the end, the producer kind of decides what stays and what goes. Hopefully, in a collaboration under my kind of guidance and support.
Thank you for encapsulating all that. So I'm going to jump ahead to a question I had further down in the episode, but since we're here, so Peter Blair, as executive producer, how do you navigate the balance between the artistic ambition of your artists and the financial sustainability of the venue?
Well, the hard fact is that we are not a not-for-profit theater. So our while making world-class musical theater is what we want to be doing, we are still returning a profit to the owners of this resort.
Mm-hmm.
So it is it is a business. Our everything we do is covered by ticket sales. I think that's I know that it's a rare arrangement, especially in Chicago as a regional theater, that we are not getting grants, we're not getting donations. We are everything is covered by ticket sales. It is tough because there's a finite amount of money, and every show doesn't need the same resources. So a lot of it is sort of the end of the year. My goal is to return this much profit to the resort so that we can do this again and again and be here another 50 years. While also staying out of the way of the artists is, I hope, and I've only been in this position for 3-ish years. I hope that we are hiring the best people and casting the best people, and then I can back off and know that the product on stage will be what we want it to be. As Peter mentioned earlier, yes, I have we'll call it the veto pen if needed, but I really don't think my job is to interject at every minor decision so that they can create and dream. And you have a budget, stick to it. If you can't, we'll talk about it. We'll reprioritize those sorts of things. If something really special comes along or something really terrible happens, that's when I have to make the hard decisions. We're going to afford this. We're not going to afford that. Let's do it on this show, but not this show. Those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And also, sharing resources among the shows and that sort of stuff. Sure. That's a lot of my job is making. Yes, I make the budget, but it's also my job to stay in the budget.
Yep.
And to there's a give and take throughout the year, trying to put what the director ultimately wants to see on stage within the parameters of what we have to work with, what we know is possible on our stage, and then what our audience wants to see.
Sure.
There's probably a lot of shows that Peter and I might want to produce that wouldn't do too well, so that's the job here. We are a commercial musical theater.
Yeah.
We need to do things that people want to see, but also introduce them to shows that they may not know they want to see until they see it and are pleasantly surprised. But yeah, it's always that push and pull. I wish I could give Peter and his team unlimited money and see what they put on stage, but I'm not sure that drives the most creative decisions anyways. So
sure.
We have we've got the parameters. My job is to let them go as far as they can.
Sure. Within that financial construct.
Yeah, and what's possible, what our expectations are.
Well, I have to tell you, I saw Titanic, And I mean, not only did I have a bunch of friends in it, so I wanted to see it to support them, but part of my curiosity was, how are they going to make this thing sync?
Yep.
And the production was spectacular across the board. I was so pleasantly, first of all, it's a very rarely produced show, so I was also excited to see it because of that.
Yeah.
But man, it was so brilliantly produced. Some of it was left to the imagination, but it was just the ensemble was across the board spectacular, playing all the different roles, which I think is another wonderful way to sort of utilize your budget, have people play multiple roles rather than having a big cast. You have the little ensemble cast, but really everything you just spoke about was evident in that production. Like how you take all the elements, something that's expected to be this grand musical,
Yeah.
and put it on that stage, particularly in the round. That was why I was like, how do you make something sync in the round? Everyone can see it from all angles. But man, truly, huge kudos to you and the team, because it was a spectacular production. So I just wanted to say, because everything you just said really was encapsulated in that production.
Well, that's a good example of one of those shows that throughout our history, I think it's what we hear over and over again as what people's memories of this place is the shows that they think, how are they gonna do that? Knowing the size of the theater, it's a square of concrete basically. There's not much below us, there's not much above us, so it forces us to be creative, and not just in a way that we got to make do with what we got, but also like what serves the story best too. Mm-hmm. Does making a boat that tilts and falls down, which we probably could have come up with something that does that, but is that actually a satisfying way to tell this story in our space?
Yeah.
And I think what the team came up with was fantastic. It was. Okay. It's the using the lights and the sounds and the ensemble in ways that really propel the story and are creative and beautiful and also unexpected. I think Titanic had a lot of unexpected moments and movement, and especially the sort of intense soundscape, which was something a little bit different for us.
Yeah.
It all just paid off. Just like, before my time, Miss Saigon was the one that we were the first, one of the first regional theaters to get our hands on that, and everyone sort of said, Miss Saigon, yeah, how are they gonna do that? And then again with Les Mis, how are they gonna do that? And it's just, you're forced to get creative. Also, you don't want to do what everyone else did. No. That's what, we're in the round, we're different. It's about the storytelling, it's about the intimacy, and then just the quality of the design and the performance, because you can't hide.
That's so well stated, particularly the piece about not having to do it as it's always been done before. I mean, you guys really have such a wonderful opportunity inherent in this space itself that you have to make it your own more often than not. It's kind of a blessing in disguise, if you will. Peter Sullivan, tell us a little bit about the Marriott's, or maybe even just your own personal overarching artistic vision for the theater, because you are the artistic director, of course, and that artistic vision is still under your purview.
Blair can't wait to hear this answer.
Let me add an additional part of that. Particularly since you guys balance Broadway classics and original or lesser known works, you guys have a really good history of doing that. So you can include that in the answer if you'd like as well.
I'll answer as much as I can. I think the artistic vision. Well, it's funny. I have a MFA in directing. My focus was really on realism, not on musicals. In fact, when I was in school, I kind of looked at musicals as kind of a joke, not very interesting. And why do people do musicals? It's not real. It doesn't have. Right. It's not Chekhov.
Yeah. Why do people just start singing out of nowhere?
Yes. And so honestly, I got this production assistant here at Marriott, and I immediately started working with names like Heidi Kettenring and David Giromo and Brian Harriet at the time, and Rachel Rockwell, and I just slowly became to find that musicals actually have depth. They have purpose. They are exciting, especially because I have a background in music. So I think, and we may talk about my tenure at Boho Theater as well, but that storefront mentality is very much, what is the meat of this story? What like Titanic is another great example, right? That it is soaring, beautiful music. And we want that. That's the number one thing we want, I would say, in musical theater, is just to hear that gorgeous music. But it's it's also the stories of those people and the relationships. And so I think if I had an artistic vision that dealt just with, what an audience sees on stage, it is your classic commercial musical theater with a little bit more meat behind it. I think that's what I would say.
So, since you both have been there for such a long time, tell us a little bit about some of the most significant changes you've seen at the theater. Whether it be pre-COVID, post-COVID, any of those sort of political or socioeconomical things that we've all experienced since then, or something completely different.
I will say that the pandemic really was like a major reset in the industry. It caused us all to sort of say, like, well, we didn't choose to stop, but we had to stop. Look at what we're doing, why we're doing, and especially how we're doing it. Peter and I sort of took on these positions coming out of the reboot. Like we'd all stopped working for a long time, and just when we came back was also sort of coincided with Peter and I taking over these jobs. The industry has changed in that we are all, I hope, looking out for each other more, looking out for ourselves more as far as taking care of our health and our minds, and making coming to work here joyful and fun, and somewhere you want to be. I don't ever want someone to sort of drag themselves to the theater like, it's my job, I gotta go do another musical, because it's really cool what we do. It's really fun what we do, and we'll all enjoy it more if we're happy and if we're healthy and we're taking care of ourselves, and if we feel like the theater is taking care of us. So that's, I think it was a big mindset shift for all of us that, it's still a business, but we can enjoy it, and we can be really good at it while also knowing that it's good for us. We try and impart that every time we start a rehearsal process, that this is somewhere we want you to be. We want you here, we want to enjoy this, we want you to enjoy this, and we want you to leave in 10 weeks saying, man, I loved working at Marriott Theatre. That's the number one goal. And then the best artists are going to want to come back. And I just don't think, I think all of us sort of overlooked that before we were forced to stop and reckon with changes in the industry, all for the better, I think.
I was going to say that, a big thing for me, in my opinion, is giving our casts a say in what happened. Giving them agency, giving them a way to communicate more openly with us, so that they feel much more a part of the process and a part of the product. And I think, in my opinion, a lot of the belief prior to the pandemic was it was very much a job. You need to come in, you need to do what you're told, and leave at the end of the day. And I think we are finding that when people come in and they feel supported, they feel cared for, they feel listened to, they're actually more invested in what they do on stage, which in the end makes a better, more exciting product. So when an audience comes in and we get these comments all the time that, like, wow, your casts were so infectious, they were so into the show that we just could not help but dancing and singing along as a result. And I think that's partly because the artists now feel, yes, we have agency, we are listened to, and I'm really enjoying creating this at this theater. And I think you are starting to really see that on our stage.
I have to agree 100%, which speaks back to my experience at Titanic. It was everybody was invested 100% in the entire show. Again, I don't know if it's because you're in close proximity, so you kind of can't, retreat in the background. But I think it speaks volumes of the way you're allowing your artists to feel a part of the process, but also just feel taken care of and want to shine in their best light at the theater. So
and it's in different ways too, right? So, like, Joseph is totally different than Titanic. I mean, Joseph, that was such a fun, like, the rehearsal space was just filled with joy every single day. And once we put that show in front of audiences, I mean, they had such a good time.
It was a fun show.
It was just so much fun. So it's going from a show like that, which is just so audience just loving every moment, to a Titanic, which is suddenly like, oh yeah, they're gonna hit an iceberg. This is serious, but it's grounded, it's real, it's funny. It was
Yeah.
beautifully directed and choreographed. So it's like,
Yeah.
which show is the better show? I don't know. They
Yeah.
were both fantastic, and
Yeah.
you could feel the cast want to tell that story.
Yeah. Now, so talking about two of your recent, any personal favorites of all the performances, of all the shows you guys have produced in your time there, either personal significance, audience response, artistic risk, anything that stands out to you for any of those reasons or other reasons that I didn't mention?
Yeah, I mean, I think since we've taken over, I don't know. It's hard to not put Beautiful on the top of that list because it was just a really great show to put together, to cast, to design. A lot of new artists to us, including the director Jess Fish. The way it turned out, just every element was meant to be. Every element fed into the others, and the audiences again loved it. But it was just great storytelling and use of our theater, use of our space. Yeah, I think of all the shows in the past few years, that one just sort of every element just really came together. I really love when we have the band on stage and that sort of stuff. So all those shows are just super fun for us too, like Buddy and Beehive and Million Dollar
Yeah.
Quartet Christmas coming up. Those shows fill the theater with energy like nothing else. So I love anytime we can get the musicians on stage too.
And Peter Sullivan, any favorites of yours?
I mean, Beautiful was I think, just such a transformative show. It had everything. I mean, not just the show itself, but the way it was directed, the way it was choreographed, the casting I thought was incredible, and just how it moved in the space was. I, I think that's got to be one of my tops. I mean, I loved Titanic. I thought it was really creative. I loved Joseph, and honestly, I really thought Buddy was a surprise hit for me, and it speaks to a little bit of like whatever the artistic vision is that that's a very commercial show, but
Mm-hmm.
we also took the time to highlight and find the moments of text and connection between characters in there, so that when Richie Valens loses his life, and Buddy, like the whole audience, it's like as though they had no idea it was coming. Had this like,
Wow.
oh my gosh. And it's because they had a blast. The mega mix, they were all up and dancing, which is such a good feeling to watch, right? But it's also they came on a journey with it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
They went on that journey, and that was the meat to it that I think made it even more special. So, Joseph, Titanic, Buddy, and Beautiful, probably that's half of what we've done so far, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
So,
We
It's
love
great.
them all,
We
John.
love them all, yeah. That's a great lineup of really sort of tried and true shows that people are aware of. But give us an idea about how the Marriott fits in with the broader Chicago National Theater ecosystem, particularly as a presenter of an incubator of new works, because I know you guys do a handful of those each season or every couple of years.
Yeah, that's always been important to this theater from the very beginning. We've been here 50 years, so selfishly, we need shows. We want to keep giving new things to our audience, and so it's our responsibility to also incubate those. So over the years, every few years, we would do a new work, whether a world premiere or just something that is we're helping to develop, or taking an older show that's being either the authors or someone wants to sort of turn it on its head and present it in a new way. And we are always a welcoming home to those sorts of projects. We're one of the founding members of NAMT, the National Alliance for Musical Theater, because however many years ago, a bunch of theaters like us said, how do we encourage new works to be written, and we'll take chances on them. And it is a chance. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't often know what you have until it's in front of the audience. So it's risky, but it's also over the years, it's just part of the balance. It's part of the mix of our seasons. The tried and true stuff that's just coming out of New York, stuff you'd never heard of, stuff you thought you knew, but we're gonna rethink it, reconceive that sort of stuff. that's just sort of the potent mix of what we've done, and our audiences, they support it all. So yeah, I hope to keep producing new works. I don't know if it's every year, every 10 years. I hope it's not every 10 years because it's been a long time before this one that's currently on stage, but they're really fun to work with. They're really hard, and it takes a long time. So if someone comes to us with a new show, whether it's already a script and score, it's still probably 2-3 years away from actually seeing an audience. So it's you're planning ahead.
And so how do you budget something like that where it's like if you rent a musical from Theatrical Rights Worldwide or what have you, like you've got this much is the line item for the rights for this many weeks of performances based on this income. But for new work, how do you form a budget around that?
It can come at us from all different directions. It can come at us directly from the authors. It can come at us from an agent of an author. It can be a script that we know is being developed, and we reach out and say like, how's that coming along? That sounds cool to us.
Right.
Or it can already have one of those rights houses attached.
Right.
They come in all sorts of different ways, and
but I'm also thinking about like all the elements of just the production part of the show, things that you don't know yet because it's never been produced. How does that even get figured out?
Sure, even just basics like this show we're doing right now, Always Something There, which is a world premiere, and it had a couple developmental readings, but never a production. And so when we signed on, there were a lot of unknowns. I mean, we had a script that had gone through several drafts. We knew the songs. We knew the team that was working on it. It was actually brought to our attention by the director, James Vasquez, who was already attached to it. But yeah, it was sort of like, we think we want to do this show. Can we commit to a few things? Can we commit to a cast size probably no bigger than this? Can we commit to an orchestra that's probably no bigger than this? Those wages being one of the biggest line items. And then it's kind of a guess. Like there's currently 12 scenes. By the time we get to it, there may be 15, there may be 6. That means more sets. That means more props. That means more costumes. So yeah, it's just sort of like you're working on faith at that point. But that's what's fun. That's what's exciting. I mean, new shows, and they changed every night. The first preview audience definitely didn't see the same show that's on stage 7 weeks in. It's a unique experience.
I bet. It sounds like it could be both fun and nerve-wracking all at the same time.
Peter, was it nerve-wracking?
No. No. Super
Everyone
easy.
should produce new musicals.
That's right.
Super easy. We'll do one again in 20 years. It'll be great.
I'm going to throw a question at you guys I didn't prep you for, but if you guys had unlimited amount of money, unlimited amount of creative prowess at your fingertips, what would you produce? I'm going to start with Peter Blair. And that is you must have a favorite out there that you've been wanting to do, but have never had the resources.
Don't take mine.
I don't know that our favorites are the. What'd you say?
Said don't take mine.
We're going to say the same thing.
1, 2, 3.
Floyd Collins.
Wow. Okay.
It's a show that we have actually produced together. It was my last show at Boho, which is a storefront theater that we ran together, and it's just a show that we both loved. And I don't think it's necessarily a commercially smart choice for us. So even if I had all the money in the world, I probably still wouldn't do it here because I don't think it's necessarily right for our audience. And that's my responsibility as the producer.
That's right.
Would we love to do that show? Absolutely. I mean, of the scores that I have wanted to hear in our theater, Ragtime we did, Titanic we did, just to hear them. And I would love to hear Floyd Collins. But again, is it a commercially viable show for the Marriott Theater? Probably not.
Yeah. Definitely something to always keep top of mind.
Yeah.
Sadly, because it's, when there's things that are that ambitious that you could do brilliantly, you have to sort of shrug your shoulders and hope.
But
particularly after the Broadway revival. I mean, it's back into the people's consciousness. So any overarching themes or trends you hope to explore in upcoming seasons, or maybe you can't talk about that because it's not been confirmed yet, or?
I don't think there's, I think the trend is just quality entertainment. I mean, we have a 50 years of reputation of delivering that, and that's forever the goal.
Yeah.
Um,
Fair enough.
2026 will announce in a few weeks, I think, and 2027 is already mostly taking shape. We work pretty far out.
Yeah.
Um, I think there's actually I had a discussion the other day for a 2028 title. So, um,
Wow.
by the time we start rehearsal for a show, we're way ahead.
Anything you want to add to that, Peter Sullivan?
Peter Blair speaks well to this, but in putting together a season, it's not like we have it's not like we can choose a theme of like let's make this season about fathers and sons. It really is
Gotcha.
about what's what where can we push our audience a little bit with this type of show? Where can we really get them with the what's a good fun summer show that people want to come see?
Yeah.
It's really crafting the season together, but we are really trying to bring in new shows. We're bringing in a whole bunch of different kinds of shows for TYA like we've never done before, I think, for theater for young audiences. So we're obviously very cognizant of keeping the audience that has made us survive for 50 years and also trying to build a new audience and still keep the old moving along in an exciting way.
Yeah, we actually didn't touch on the TYA stuff that you guys produce, which is such a large part of your season. Do you have any, I don't know, like data or like metrics of how many people start the kids seeing shows as kids and then they matriculate into ticket purchasers as semi-adult age or adult age? I mean, is that something you guys have any sort of idea about, or is that you just
483 million.
wow?
I think it's roughly 483 million people.
Wow.
No, I don't have that data.
I know.
I do spend a lot of time in spreadsheets, but that's not one I have.
Yeah.
But it theoretically and on principle, that is crucial for us.
Yeah.
Is to take TYA seriously, to put as much effort and care into crafting those shows, to encourage them to be lifelong theater goers. And yes, there are countless stories of meeting adults who say, "Oh, my first show was a TYA show, and now I'm a subscriber, and my grandma used to bring me here," and all that sort of stuff. And I live not too far from here, and even when I meet people on the street and tell them what I do, they're like, "Oh, I saw this show," and they can't wait to tell you about it. But the most important ones are the ones who say, like, the first show I ever saw, didn't even know musicals existed, was a children's theater when I was in second grade, and my Girl Scout troop went to it. And now they're either in love with the art form, or they're an actor, or it's just eye-opening. And we do these Q&As after every performance. It's probably my favorite thing about TYA. It's not the show itself, but the question and answer session, because they're really good questions, and if they're not a good question, they're really funny. But it's also just the eye-opening experience of seeing that this is someone's job. These are people who have worked and trained and practiced, and it looks so fun. These kids are like, "That's your job?
Wow.
My dad goes to an office. That's boring. But what you do,
Yeah.
I'm doing that."
I want to thank you both for joining me today. Before we wrap up, is there anything that you'd like to add before we wrap up?
Peter, do you want to say something nice about me?
Peter?
Yeah, can you text me what you want me to say real quick? No, it's funny you're talking about the TYA. The only something that's different about myself and Blair in these positions is that we are both two fathers with two children, and just talking about TYA and all those kids and the Q&A session. There's a it's fun to kind of be one of the leaders of a family theater company and have my own children come in and sit through a show, and I think there's something special about that, and I think that also makes it the environment special as well. When we have expecting mothers or mothers who have just given birth, we make space for them. We understand that journey, and I think it has made us kind of a warm environment.
That's cool. Do any of your kids come back with notes?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. In fact, my son Marston, who is, I think it was Marston, who was 4 at the time, saw a show and walked out because it was too loud because I forgot his headphones. And then it was a Saturday, and then he met the general manager of the hotel in the lobby, And the general manager said, "Oh, so how is the show?" And he said, "Too loud." I went, "Okay, all right."
Noted.
Note
Okay.
taken.
Sure that.
Note taken.
That's right.
It was corrected immediately.
Yes.
That's brilliant.
I'm going to tell one funny TYA story
Please.
because it's about Peter. When I had my first child, Peter hadn't had kids yet, and his wife Liz babysat for my daughter a lot. And Liz is also a fantastic actress, and so I brought my daughter Ada to see Liz star in Sleeping Beauty. I think it was Sleeping Beauty, one of the TYA shows. And halfway through the show, a giant dragon was chasing Liz around the stage, and my daughter was not happy to see her babysitter in danger.
How did she handle that?
I think we stayed, and we probably had to talk about what's real and what's not. But when she saw Liz in the lobby, it was like, phew.
She's okay.
Good. See you next Saturday, Liz.
Yeah, my babysitter's okay. But
Oh my gosh.
she was invested.
Yeah. As we want them to be at that age.
Yeah.
Hey, I can't thank you both again enough for joining me. How long is Always Something There running, and then what's the next show coming up at the Marriott?
2 more weeks of Always Something There, and then Catch Me If You Can starts at the end of August.
Amazing. And runs till when?
October, I think 19th.
October 19th.
Yeah, and we'll announce 2026 probably the end of August.
Brrr, big build up there. So
Good ones.
Okay, amazing. Thank you both again. Thanks for joining us at the Chicago Theater Makers Podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. The Chicago Theater Makers Podcast is a production of Spirit Art LLC, and our podcast theme music is by Paul Langford. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the podcast, please drop us a note at our website, ChiTheaterMakersPodcast.com. That's ChiTheater, makers with an S, podcast.com. We hope you enjoyed spending time with us as much as we enjoyed spending it with you, and we'll see you on the board soon.